Hey Earth, it's God's comic Brad Stine, and this is Brad Stine Has Issues, the Rewound edition. Folks, we're going to have a brand new Brad Stine Has Issues this September. In the meantime, this summer, we're going to take you back to reimagine the interviews that got this whole thing started. Enjoy Rewound edition. Enjoy Rewound edition right now. Happy New Year 2025. It's God's comic Brad Stine, and this is Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. As the launch of 2025 new season of Brad Stine Has Issues, we have a very special guest, somebody you've seen on Joe Rogan, Bill Maher, and all across the United States, including at numerous events with President-elect Trump. Riley Gaines, that's right, the University of Kentucky woman, amazing swimmer that suddenly was swimming with a man, and she didn't see that coming. And apparently she frowned on that, found that a downside to the career that she had anticipated would be with other women. And so she has decided to take it to the courts, as well as a bunch of other athletes. Wyatt, you are my son. You are the one that has helped build this podcast little by little, brick by brick, button by button. So, folks, I promised you last week, and you might as well buckle up. This is the first podcast of 2025, Brad Stine Has Issues, and it is a special one. Not only with an amazing guest, Riley Gaines, but this is the podcast where we are moving into a brand new direction, a direction where my son Wyatt will be on camera. That's right. He won't be a ghost. He won't be a hovering arm. He won't be a foot with Mario pajamas. He's going to be seen for the first time, not the last. He's going to be here, and you're going to get to see him full throttle, full frontal facial. That is my son. You're going to see everything that has made him him. And all this time it has been voices, but now it's going to be his face. Wyatt, I don't know, son. Are you ready for your coming out party?
I'm ready. The question is, will all equipment be ready?
I doubt it. I would hope not. I would hope that the equipment would honor you being on camera for the first time and glitch somehow or cut you off so we can only see you like this, or your audio fries or something goes nutty, because wouldn't that be perfect?
It wouldn't be Brad Stine Has Issues without issues.
Listen, I have spent my entire podcast career with issues making me look bad, sound bad, things go nutty, shut down the podcast. You shouldn't be playing that. Why you got that? Where did that go? Why is that hollow? Where's that happening? I have been the face of the fricas. I have been the face of the absolute fanaticism of trying to make this right and it not coming. It's your turn to face the scrutiny of screwing up. And this time, though, because you're the button guy, you're the one that's going to actually endure the punishment. Son, are you ready for this?
Well, I guess it's about time. We've been waiting a long time for this. And I really hope it works. Otherwise, we're going to look rather silly.
Well, son.
Yeah, I know.
Redundant just called, and he's like going, yeah, I've heard that one. But here's the deal.
That's the best redundancy joke you can think of?
Really? Well, no, I'm sure there's a worse one. I'm sure I could have made it.
That's the best redundancy joke you could think of.
Not really. I guess I could have thought of a worse one.
That was the worst redundancy plan you could have thought of.
Not really.
Should I keep going?
Yeah, I mean, we could keep playing that, but I think there will come a point.
There's only so many ways we can inflect on those words.
That's right. Well, listen, I got to tell you, though, and for those of you watching, and I'm talking about Nick Kress, I'm talking about Karen Boyd, I'm talking about Stan Simpson, I'm talking about Paula Faye, Marie Rache, I'm talking about Danny Herring, I'm talking about all of the numerous, the bush quacker. Who else is out there am I not thinking of off the top of my head?
Why are you asking me that? You know.
Force Bainey.
Force. The Force.
The Force is always with us. But, this is my people. They're the ones that helped develop this podcast. I've said it a million times, but why not? It's still true. And they are the loyal fans. They're watching right now, even though I can't see them. I can feel them in spirit. But here's the thing, guys. So because we've always talked about how the fact that this podcast that started out of the corona crisis of crazy and has turned into, an actual little studio and whatnot that two people out there has seen live have actually been part of it, and that would be Nicholas and Ashley Haas, if I'm not mistaken, and her mother. Mm-hmm. They have seen and have been involved with the studio, and God bless them for making that trip, that trek, that pilgrimage. They did have to remove their shoes. They did crawl up on their knees on broken glass. But to them, it was worth it. This was the pilgrimage. This was the Hajj. This was what was expected of anybody who's a true fan of Brad Stine. I'm frankly shocked Karen Boyd hasn't made the trip because she only lives in South Carolina.
So, that's pretty south. That's even south of the North Carolina.
It is. It's just a tad souther. But if South exists, if you're flat earther.
Well, the thing, I never understood that about North and South Carolina or Virginia and West Virginia. Are those the only cardinal directions that we assign states to?
Maybe.
Why can't Kentucky just be North Tennessee?
Could be. And maybe it is in a former, universe, a parallel universe. Maybe it is.
A formal universe?
Former. It was here.
A formal parallel universe. What's it now? An alternate one?
No, because a parallel universe. Oh, well, yeah, alternative. Threat. It'd be more string theory. Yeah. So it existed and then it vanished.
Yeah.
That'd make more sense. Yeah, it wouldn't be a parallel because it'd be still happening as we speak, unless we aren't here and we don't realize it.
Exactly. All right, so this is the first week of me being on camera.
Yeah.
When are we going to do that? Actually have me be on the thing?
Well, I thought we would ease into it.
I was just expecting this to be a big thing. We'd go a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2. Here he is.
No, we're going to do all of that, but before.
Okay, but when though? Because the audience is expecting it, and if are we going to do it the last minute of the podcast?
Maybe
before we go to the
maybe we'll just pop right into there at the very last second.
Is it going to be a teaser for next week?
Yeah, because here's the thing.
Even though we half killed ourselves trying to get this thing set up.
Well, we really did. People don't know this. We actually had a glitch in one of the cords before we started. And we figured it out. Wyatt actually did the troubleshooting. So I'm proud of how, we've come.
I shot those troubles square in the face.
You did, and eliminated them, I might add. Now, your dad did help. I did find another.
You're right. You did take out the bad cable, and that was about the extent of your help.
That's but it worked. It was necessary. It was helpful. It was a
It definitely worked. Yeah. I can say that much with confidence.
I can hear you. You can hear me, so something went right. We did.
As long as the audience can also hear us. Otherwise, well...
Well, they'll let us know. Trust me. The one thing I can count on my people is if this thing sounds like crap, their direction, they will let us know in the thread that they are talking to each other. Have you ever noticed why our people also spend a lot of time talking to each other as though they're barely paying attention to us?
It's like they being in the same room as each other is more interesting than having whichever guest of the week we've got.
It appears to be that they have become such fans of each other that they just use us as a free internet cable access so they can talk to each other.
To that point, though, if anyone in our audience started their own podcast, would you watch it?
Sure, I'd watch it just to see what they're up to. They're my people. They're my fans. They're my friends-ish.
What are the
I don't know if they're really friends. Wyatt, what is it a friend if you're on Facebook and you call it a friend? Is that really a friend?
No, that's more like acquaintance at best.
I don't even think it's that, honestly. If it's all digital, as a pen pal. Back in the day, the original acquaintance was a pen pal. So you'd write these people you didn't know. I didn't even know how you contacted each other, but somehow you found this guy or this gal. You send them a note, and they lived in Denmark, and you lived in Des Moines, and you'd finally get, after 2 months, it would arrive by ship, and it would say, "Welcome to I want to you do and go and have new." That's how they talk in Denmark. I don't know if you knew that. But then you would write back to them and so forth, and it would have been fun and interesting and exciting, especially because it took a long time to get that response. So you were looking forward to that letter. But you know, I guess you could make a friendship, right, by talking to somebody and caring about what they have to say and answering it directly. But obviously, we all know that with the internet, this whole experience of kids your age, and you kind of got in at the front end of it, so you kind of grew up as it was happening, but you didn't get so engulfed, so completely committed as kids are now, where they are so addicted. It is a drug. It is their access to reality, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, hey, do you like this, or click that, or whatever, and follow me. And there is money to be made. I'm sure that's an enticement, but but there's also this idea that somehow they have value. They have some kind of worth because they have all these people that have clicked a little subscriber button. So it's sad. It's a dystopian science fiction 1984-ish Big Brother-ish come true sad electronic friendship and or connection that clearly is not real and robust. There's nothing at stake really because somebody can't like see you and talk to you and get your body language. They're just kind of making it up. And it's just not the way I think the world was designed to be. And if they ever have one of those pulsar things that knocks all the electronics out, you know what those are called.
Yes, solar flare, something like that.
Solar flare comes from the sun.
Yeah.
But don't they have like a weapon thing that they can go boop and a magnetic thing and it knocks every electronic out?
An EMP.
Yeah, EMP. Well, if that ever happens, and people are at first going to panic because they don't know how to text each other. Did that just happen? Can you believe we are? What in the world? I can't get online.
Let me buy my pen pal.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do.
Next thing you know, they're trying to reach a guy in Denmark. But
nevertheless, how are you doing? Here's the power out.
Exactly. But the point is, it's probably a better thing altogether because that's really, as we look at 2025, Wyatt, and it's this brand new year. And, I talked to you maybe last time, or maybe I did it on a Daily Brad, but I talked to you about the idea that, what really is a year? It's an arbitrary space of movement, right? The Earth rotating around the sun completely, 365 days, making it a complete journey around it, unless you don't believe that the Earth spins around the sun and you think the sun spins around the Earth and you live on a flat Earth. Then I don't know how they come up with 365 days. I'm not sure. I don't understand that world as much. Though we're going to talk to people that do believe in that world, and we're going to talk to them.
Well, at the very least, we will talk to person.
Yes, we will talk to person. And they'll be easy to get and cheap.
Very cheap.
And it's going to be a new segment we're going to have, Conspiracy Corner.
Is it even going to be a segment or just an entire other podcast we do?
Know.
There's a lot of stuff this person has to say.
It is. A lot. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we're going to just make a giant 2-hour episode and then just cut it up as segments that we can insert throughout, our podcasts, maybe throughout the year. That might be a simple way to do it because it's going to be hard because, like you said, this particular person is very smart but not real adept at editing their vocal acrobatics. In other words,
I think I see two people in this room who are not good at modifying their vocal acrobatics.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of them's the star of the show.
Yes. Well, you're not the star yet, what?
What? Well, you know what? Hold on. You deserve that. You deserve that. That was a good one. I walked right into that one.
You sure did. Well, listen. So let's go back to the big day because this is a special day. It is our first podcast for 2025. And it is the one where you're going to be unveiled. Now, people, I want to talk to you guys. And again, I always talk to you guys intimately, like the fans that show up every Monday because you are the ones that built this. And I really use you as I've told you this, as my sort of sounding board, my guinea pigs as to where I'm going. And because you're always there, you're honest with me, you've been great, loyal people, but you'll say I don't like that, or you maybe try this, and it's like my own personal what do they call it, group when they're focus group. Yeah, you're like my own purpose focus group that help me think what is working, what is not working. So as I told you, when we cashed out last year, 2024, now we move into 25, we're going to have some new segments. I'm going to probably have some more specific monological rants like my first Brad Stein Has Issues show was. And you've seen clips of that on YouTube, so you get it's much more concise. It's scripted, it's written, so it's right there. And we're going to use that on Instagram. We're going to put that on my Facebook page. Some of those clips, we're going to try those out and see if we can build some momentum. Really try to use the Facebook page to help build the podcast because we haven't really used it, and it's the one that has the most following. But the reason that I decided, and I did talk to Wyatt about this, so don't act like get worried that I went, and decided for him, you must be revealed, Wyatt. And he's like, no, I'm ashamed. I'm look away.
I'm just the Phantom of the Opera with a mask.
Yes.
Except instead of it being an actual mask, it's just a cat head.
That's it. Oh, you've done that. You've been that guy.
I have. I've been the cat person on the show.
Well, and what we should have done.
Photo notes, audience.
What we should have done is aggregated all the times you did show up.
You know what? We can do that next week. Just like a memoriam.
Right.
In memoriam.
Well, right, because I do remember once when you had your foot up here, because I was showing him your pants, you numerous grabbing the iPad arm, the ghost interview, the cat. I think Ashley Haas was here when that happened.
Yeah,
right?
I was the cat. Yeah.
You were the cat. So I'm trying to think if there was any other times that you showed up. In some odd way. No, but anyways, here's the point I'm trying to make. Wyatt is funny, and Wyatt and I seem to have a good chemistry, a good rapport. And I just was looking at other, podcasts, and that were, successful, and they all have a team. Maybe it's one or two guys or a husband and a wife. There is a husband and wife one out there, but sometimes there's two or three folks. But they're all in it. And it just made me think, what are you trying to do? When I started the podcast, it was more like just having some fun, again, during the crisis of Corona and the craziness of that cult. And so I was just kind of having fun with it and really ranting about things that were frustrating me and making me angry and what's happened to my country and this and that. And that seemed to draw people. But everybody had a lot of time to just watch podcasts. They weren't working. They were just getting paid by the government. People were donating more. We were trying to find some unity, some sense of normalcy that we couldn't find. And so I do think there was sort of a false sense of commitment to some of these podcasts and some of these social media platforms because people were looking for something to do, and they did want to find some people that thought like them so that they could feel normal and feel connected and feel heard and feel you're not crazy. So it was different. So Wyatt comes on. We just have one camera at that time. I didn't have guests yet. I don't even remember who our first guest was, but that should be something we could archive and go find too and just show retrospective clips, as we move into 2025 of things we tried to do over the years. And some of the old sets, I'm going to find a clip and you guys will remember, I remember that. So it'll be fun. But I just thought to myself, Wyatt and I spend time doing what we call our witty banter. That's our little nickname for it, witty banter. That happens before a clip that might be shown. It happens before the guest that is usually pre-recorded, and all that didn't used to be that way. If you've been following this all along, we used to do the guests live, us live, and then we were having problems with lip sync was out of sync, so we had to stop and do that. Then we had to get off of Facebook because it was killing the algorithms in Facebook, and we were crashing. People were not watching. I wasn't getting any kind of viewership on my Facebook page, like what's happening. Well, you got to get off, quit doing these Daily Brad's lives. You got to quit doing these live Facebooks because they basically say you've had enough views because you did this 2-hour thing. So we started going, let's go to YouTube. Let's just do it on YouTube. I need to build those subscribers up to, love to get to 100,000. I only have 37,000, so we're not even at 50. But it'd be great if we could try to get 70 70,000 extra subscribers this year. That'd be great to get 100,000 subscribers. And I just wanted to bring Wyatt in. There was never any reason not to. We just, again, didn't have the setup for it. We didn't have the cameras for it. And then once we started getting those, they were really for the guests. And so, but at one point I bought a GoPro, because and you might remember that. You guys, those of you who are watching, have been watching forever. I had a little GoPro here. I thought it might be funny to show an angle of me from this angle in black and white, just to mix it up. Anyways, I said, well, let's use the GoPro, because it can be right there connected, because he's in this little corner right here in the back, and that's where all the machinery is and all of our gear. And so he can't really move a lot, and so there's not a lot of room for a big camera. So we said, well, let's use the GoPro. That's decent. But then we had to find a little light to light him up, because he's in the dark. And so we're hoping we might have to adjust that. So just like with all the typical Brad Stine has issues, it's going to be a work in progress until we nail it. But I want Wyatt to be seen and viewed, and we can laugh and we can see him joking with me. Yep. I just think it's going to add a dynamic to the podcast that we don't have. And I'm not trying just to be the star. So I'm hoping that's going to be a nice addition, and we'll find out. But before we get to the revelation of Wyatt and let you see him for the first time and get used to that, I did want to play a little game for those of you who did not, for those of you who have been watching and have speculated on Wyatt. I wonder what he looks like and this and that. I want you to go ahead. We're writing these things down. You guys are on the thread. You're talking to each other right now. I know you are. But I want you to start putting it out. I want you to make some guesses. I want you to start saying, well, what do you think Wyatt looks like? I want you to go ahead and make some guesses.
And now, I will grade them on a plethora of categories, including general handsomeness, honesty, humbleness, and probably the most important category, how funny I think your answer is.
Nice. Well, listen, this is going to be...
And the winner gets the honor of being the winner.
Well, it's funny, Wyatt, because if you... Again, I grew up in a different age, and when I was starting, there was a lot of radio disc jockeys was a big deal, because there wasn't all the social media. There wasn't a million places to make, celebrities. So a DJ was one that you would, people listen to the radio. They didn't have downloads yet. They didn't have streaming yet. So you would listen to the radio or watch TV or get records, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, a record album would have the photos of the band. If you watch TV, the actors are right there, but the DJ you never saw. It was only a voice you fell in love with. And so once in a while, the DJ would show up to host or MC some concert or something, and you would see him. It would be so funny, because it's like you had all this time, you pictured them in your head, what this guy looks like or this gal, and you'd see him and you go, oh man, I didn't know he's really short, or oh, I didn't know she looked like that, or it's
or like, okay, now where's the real DJ?
Yeah, that's not that can't be that. Please.
Okay, you can stop the joke now. We get it.
Yeah, your stunt double is not what I came for.
We didn't pay extra for that.
But so I want you guys to start sort of telling us, well, what do you think he looks like? Now, I do need to make a caveat here, Wyatt.
Oh, a caveat, a rule for this competition.
There are 3 people that cannot participate.
Yes.
And those 3 would be...
Ashley Haas.
Number 2.
Nick Kress.
Number 3.
Karen Boyd.
That's right. Or Karen, as you should know by now.
Listen, there's a Karen in my praise and worship band, and I keep getting the names confused. Okay?
Well, I don't think Karen sings in a praise and worship band, but if she did...
No, but Karen does.
Yes, Karen does. Well, Karen and Ashley and Nick. Nick came to a show in Minnesota a few years ago, so I went ahead and FaceTimed you. So I thought, you deserved, if you're coming out here and wearing my shirt, and the guy donated a lot to the ministry, so I said, I'm going to call up Wyatt. You get to see him. He was the first guy that got to see Wyatt, and they chatted for a second. Then Ashley Haas came and was on the show, and she was a fan, and she even said, when I first met her at a show at her church I was performing, what would it cost to get an autograph of Wyatt? So she'd already kind of liked his interplay and his banter. So I thought, well, heck, you got to come out here and meet Wyatt. Maybe you guys would get along because she's kind of quirky, you're kind of quirky. So she did, and you guys, had some fun and made friends. I think you still talk, don't you, a little bit?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, do some. So that's sweet. And then lastly, Karen Boyd, and she came to a show. I'm trying to remember where I was. It might have been in South Carolina, matter of fact, now I think about it. So she came, and she's been to 2 or 3 shows. So she's like Ashley. She's like Nick. They've come to a handful. So I thought, I just, not like it's a reward, Wyatt. I don't like to think of your face as being a reward.
Well, that makes one of us.
Yeah. But nevertheless, I felt like they deserved to say hi and meet you and just kind of say, hey, here's a little thank you for all this sacrifice that you have put in to be part of my show and also to come out and see it. So anyways, they 3 have seen it. But I will say this. There was a time in one of the writings, whatever you call it, the threads that people are doing right now.
Comments.
That Karen, this is before she saw you, before I showed her a picture. We didn't FaceTime. I just found a picture of you in California over by the San Andreas Fault. And she made a comment when we were talking about you for some reason on one of our episodes, and we said, what does he look like? I wonder if you, and I might have even said, what do you guys think he looks like? And I've given you some clues along the way, little by little, tiny, tiny clues. I would say to people like one huge clue, but I gave it was, I said, he doesn't look like me. He does not look like me. Matter of fact, if you and he and I were together and you didn't know who was who, you would not think we were related. So just letting you know. And so that was one of the big clues I gave him. But there was something that Karen said once, and it had to do with the old backdrop. Now, this backdrop is about to get changed for 2025. We're going to just make it, clean it up a little bit, do some things. We raised the logo. But I moved some of the stuff that's been around for 2024, and one of those was a caricature. So you guys might remember, or maybe you can go back on some of the old episodes before this show's over and see this caricature. But Karen said, maybe that's Wyatt. Maybe that's kind of be Wyatt. And it's kind of like, I'm thinking to myself, holy smoke, that girl is so intuitive. Because the truth is, it was indeed.
Yeah, it was me.
Wyatt. So it was a Easter egg. I had Wyatt in front of their face for a year or more. And they didn't know. And that was part of our little gag, our little fun. So that was what we did. So anyways, we're going to let you think. What do you think? How tall do you think he is? I want you to know, what color do you think his hair is? Just anything. Just tell us, what have you always pictured? This is the easiest way. Don't just guess. Hearing him all these years, what did you picture he looked like? And just tell us. It'll be fun just to see how you saw him. Because when you see him, you go, oh, that's what he looks like. I always pictured blah, blah, blah.
Oh, man, I was way off.
So while you guys take some time doing that, I do. Well, go ahead, Wyatt.
Well, I was going to say, I actually have a bit of a topic of discussion.
Well, please.
All right, so we used to watch television all the time, especially when we had the Comcast On Demand stuff, right?
Yeah.
What do you remember being your least favorite part of watching TV?
Commercials.
Commercials, yes. Oh my goodness. I have decided to start a list. And every single time I see a commercial for a product, it goes on that list, and I refuse to buy it.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
I got you.
But the reason why I'm asking you this is, have you ever seen like a commercial, a campaign? Where it's just like, they just bombard you with the same commercial, like dozens of times a day. I mean, I guess you didn't really watch TV that much. You wouldn't see it, but it's a thing. Like, especially nowadays with YouTube, they will have like the same 5 or 6 ads that display all the time, and it's always the same thing, and it's so annoying because you can't skip them.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what, in your opinion, was the worst commercial that you had ever seen? If you can even remember it.
Well, it's funny because a lot of times the worst commercial becomes one of the best because you mock it so much. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever remember the, I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh, the Life
commercial.
Alert one,
The
yeah.
Life Alert with the old ladies on the floor and there's a
That's such a
walker
good
next
one.
to, and you got to laugh because it's so absurd that these poor, apparently the elderly just collapse periodically and they can't get up, but they have this. So they're going to call for somebody to come. Can somebody come pick me up? And I'm getting close to that age. That's the thing that most frightens me. I didn't realize that was actually true. That suddenly your body just says, we're not going to. Oh, you wanted to walk? Nah, we're getting old. That's getting old. How about if we collapse you? How about if you lose a hip and you roll the rest of the way to wherever you're heading?
Tumbleweed, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why.
You
Do
don't know?
Do you have a most hated?
Not necessarily. I mean, there were some bad ones, like the Pepsi commercial they did. It's a famous one. I'm just not sure if you know it, but the reason why I'm asking is because every once in a while, you'll think of something like, man, I could go for like a pizza, or like, man, I really want this toothbrush, and then like 2 seconds later, bam, a commercial for that exact thing.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to bring this up because it wasn't necessarily that, but I had an instance where there was an ad campaign that I saw for the first time, and it was just like, it made me think. So I'm watching YouTube, just enjoying myself, to do some downtime, and then an ad break starts, and the ad, it was this person looking straight at me. And she was just like, "Hi, I'm your AI girlfriend," and I was like, "Add to universe, add to." So I just like, oh, you've gotta be, I gotta get a date or something. This is out of control.
Oh my goodness! But Wyatt, because if it's on social, they're picking it up. This is true. They hear you talk, and it sends a message. This guy's looking for a ham radio.
I never talked about that though.
Well, oh yeah, girlfriend maybe, but
but like, it's this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have AI in everything.
yeah, no, it's spooky. It's spooky as heck.
and it's also like really
it's bad.
It's almost insulting in some ways.
Well, listen, it's a new world we're living in, and it's never going to be the same. Now, maybe it never was, but it's never going to get back to the good old days. It's all over. We're moving into some either really demonic, hateful, destructive, crushing, subhuman, anti-human, dystopian time of human history where it's all going to collapse, or we will somehow try to return to the organics and the crunchies and the eating the good stuff and getting away from the prescribed medicines, eating healthy again and eating like how God would want us to. We're going to have to figure it out because things have really gotten so sterile and they've gotten so just lacking in warmth and organic humanness and flesh and face to face, not the friend or the like or the subscribe or the follow or the notify. No, none of that, and none of the swipe in here or there. And I don't even know what that means, but I know that's a big joke. You swipe left or something, so I think it has something to do with some porn site.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm just saying I'm not up on it because I'm not interested. But it is what it is, and most of the humanity is. So you can get left behind. You can be a Luddite all you want, but you will be left in the dust. So you got to figure that out. And as a Christian, as a Christ follower, to me, it's all about truth. It's all about sort of what is real, what is good, what is wholesome, what is holy, what is sacred, what is important, and certainly relationship is. But truth telling, if you guys know anything about Brad Stine Has Issues, it's that let's speak the truth, unashamed, especially we live in the United States. We've given this country that gave us the First Amendment to say, speak however you choose. Even hate speech is fine, as long as you're not saying go kill people and try to hurt somebody. you can say things that are hurtful or whatever, and that's what makes it free. If you can't say things that people don't want to hear, you're not free. If you think that you don't have to hear things you don't want to hear, that's insulting or horrible, that is just disgraceful and degrading to you, and you want to stop that because of that. Nope, you don't believe in free speech, and free speech is more important than your feelings and my feelings and Wyatt's feelings. So when he comes on camera and you see him, somebody might say, well, I didn't think it looked like that, or I think he, looks different or whatever. Don't matter. Free speech is say what you want to say. But I have, and Nick Kress, by the way, I'm going to bring up Nick again, St. Nick. He showed up to filming of Laugh While It's Legal, and so he is a fan that's actually going to end up in an album as well, and that's interesting because he was a fan and watched my albums over the years, so he got to be in one. I'm glad. I hope it was fun for him, and I hope it was worth it for him. But one of the things that my Laugh While It's Legal show, which was probably going to be ready hopefully by the end of this month, and then we're going to shop it around, see if we can find anybody that wants to put it on their platform, and it'll be available. But in the meantime, there might be some clips here and there of some of the new stuff, and there is one that I just saw on YouTube that came from another show I did in Green Bay, Wisconsin, when I was preparing for the Laugh While It's Legal, and this is actually from the show. I didn't include it in the show that I filmed because I felt like it wasn't really ready yet. I wasn't completely satisfied with it, so I didn't include it. I was playing with it, so I did it at this other venue, but it was filmed, and so we have some clips of those. So this won't actually appear in the actual Laugh While It's Legal, but it came from that set, and so it gives you a little taste, a little foretaste of the direction I decided to make Laugh While It's Legal. The topics I was going to talk about, the things I wanted to explore, the danger of free speech by taking on the wokies, which is what my purpose is just a little taste, a little flavor of what will be coming, and I'm going to give it to you guys first. So here's a clip. It's not from the actual filming. That will be completely different, but it is material from the set. Didn't even make it in the original, but it'll give you a vibe for what this new set's going to look like. So Wyatt, if you could, let her rip. DEI doctors. What do you do for a living? You look like a professor at a university. That scares the crap out of me. What do you do? You're a physician. Of course. I just walk around in my brown shoes and my short socks with my white legs flailing around next to the Polynesian man. Wear my unbuttoned, wrinkled shirt, and why not? I'm a physician. I want to give my accolades to Einstein, who could decipher quantum physics with his bare mind, but found combing his hair too complex. You're loaded, aren't you? Look at him smiling. I'm just a surgeon. What do I know about it? Good. Yeah, well, you're not a DEI hire, are you? Huh? No, did you actually have to go through medical school to become a surgeon? Did you? Because now they don't want that. You know what a diversity hire is, right? It means that the more minority you are, the more power you're given. That's how it works. That's the game. You are more oppressed. If you're black, you're oppressed. If you're white, and if you're black and a woman, more oppressed. If you're gay and black, more oppressed. It gives you more power. That means the new surgeons really should come from the most possible minorities you can get. You'll get the best one of all. I've got a plaque in my heart, sir. I'm going to need a surgeon, somebody here, and get in there to do that. But I don't want to just use you. You're too white. I want to get myself somebody like a hunchback. There's somebody you never see. A hunchback should be cutting on me because that's somebody that's completely underrepresented in the surgery. That means I know I'm going to be taking not just a hunchback, armless. You never see that. Give me an armless hunchback who grabs that stinking scalpel with his toes and just whacks away. That's what I'm looking for. You know what I never see? Dead. The dead people are never represented. Give me a hunchback, armless, dead guy to run around in my heart and clean out my plaque. Because then I'll know I'm in good hands because they're marginalized. But as you can see, and for those who have been fans of me for a long time, that's it. I mean, I try to push the boundaries of what's going on, political correctness, wokeness. We didn't call it wokeness, 25 years ago when I did put a helmet on, or when I did wussification, or when I did tolerate this, or conservative unleashed. I'm pointing at this because I have this weird space that we created the studio out of, and I've told you this, it's over my roof, so it's like this, so you can't just walk in, you kind of got to watch your head, especially if I'm short, don't matter, but for normal sized people, you do. But I had 4 actual backdrops that I used when I was selling merch at Promise Keepers, so they're big 8x8, banners, and they have my, the actual album cover on them. Anyways, I hung them with my son and my son-in-law, all 4 of them. So it really took up a lot of space. It looks cool because it's these giant banners. It looks like a sideshow banner type thing. So anyways, I think one of the things why we need to do is we're going to do a tour. We're going to walk into our studio. We're going to film everything, and then they can see it, and then that'll be one of our episodes. So at least those of you who aren't going to make a trip, and I don't blame you, that would ever get out here and see it, you'll get to see what it looks like. And it's just little. It's only 200 square feet. It's a tiny little place, but it's perfect for us. And speaking of perfect for us, folks, like I said, if you are brand new to Brad Stine Has Issues, welcome. Please subscribe on the YouTube channel. Hit the notification button. I know you hear that from every single person, but it's the way it works.
There's a reason you hear it from every single person.
Right.
Because you need to do it.
You need to do it. Share it, like it, comment on it so it builds some algorithm. We're trying to see if we can get 100,000 subscribers. That's hard to do. I didn't realize how hard it was because I ended up with so many on my Facebook over time that I thought, well, maybe this isn't that big of a deal. Well, it is. YouTube is rough, at least for me. But that's something I need you to do. But for those who might watch this later, and most do, by the way, for those of you who might think, well, there's not a ton of people watching this live, only my most loyal fans. That's true. We had more during COVID when people, again, had nothing else to do. But now they found lives. And but afterwards, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of views of this podcast. Tomorrow, the next day, even people watching now will sometimes leave. They're tired and they'll come back and pick it up later. So that's kind of what I need. But if you are brand new, my son, who's the voice you're hearing, Wyatt, is always been a voice. We did funny little things to tempt you that you're going to see him, and then he would be in a ghost costume because it was a Halloween. We were interviewing a ghost and other funny things because we just wanted to make that our running gag. But like I said, I just felt like it's a new year. It's time to up our game. It's time to get Wyatt more involved. He's getting more and more of a production responsibility to this thing. Trust me, he's now going to be doing the editing that ends up on Salem when we're on Salem podcast. He's doing the audio editing. So this is none of the stuff that he go to school for. He learned it on his own, trying to help his dad, and now we're able to help a little bit. And we might even end up doing a campaign one of these days for my ministry in general to bring in some income just so I can help pay him and just up our game on this. Some of the videos we'd like to do, it takes money because you got to edit. It just takes time. So it is what it is. I will do it like I've done everything. If people want to give, it'll be there and we'll do it. If they don't, then so be it. But that being said, I want Wyatt to now be an official part of this broadcast. Every week you get to see him, you get to watch him interact, you get to know him even more emotionally, intellectually, because you get to see him like everybody else has on their podcast. And if you took time to write down what you said, and Wyatt's giving it a look, see, and laughing at some of the
some good ones. Some good ones,
but some were way off the mark. But there comes a time in any season that it's time to turn the page. It's time to do something new, something fresh, something out of the box, something that is exciting, something that hopefully injects a new, fresh life to something that's trying to continue to grow. And you can't do that if you're stagnant and you're doing the same thing. You need to keep it up. So I want to officially say thank you guys for all the years you watched and listened and joked and speculated about my son Wyatt, who I've made so much fun of over all the years, and vice versa. But now I would like you, if you would, to do me a favor and in your own little electronically out there in the atmosphere way, pull up a chair, take a deep breath, and applaud, if you would, as I introduce to you, for the first time after 3 years of Brad Stine Has Issues, the voice takes on a face. Please welcome my son, Wyatt Leroy Stine. You're on, son. What's it feel like?
Hello.
Oh,
hello.
my goodness. I have to come over and welcome you officially.
Yep.
Keep talking, Wyatt.
Keep talking. Oh, you're leaving. Okay, so it's been nice walking here. I got my little cubby here to. Hello. Hey.
This is my son.
Yep.
I'm proud of you. You're on. We're going to be doing a crazy stuff together, but you're going to be on. We might have to fix your light, but this is him. This is me. We don't look anything alike, but we are going to continue to build this podcast, and if God has any say in this, we might actually make an impact, help some people, heal some people, influence some people, and maybe tick some people off. What do you think?
Oh, that's the idea.
Welcome to the big leagues, Wyatt.
Oof, I feel so small.
Sidekick.
Well, what are you starting off with that, huh?
Yes.
Well, okay, I see how it is.
Yes.
This is going to be the start of a rocky relationship, I can tell.
Wyatt, what's new?
Yeah.
So anyways, what is it? Does it feel different now that you realize that you can't just say a little funny line and then vanish into the wilderness? You actually have to be looked at and viewed like me. When I would be sick and with 105 temperature, but I came up here anyways. And when I had the dropsy and the leprosy, I came on. I didn't make an excuse. So Wyatt, now finally you get to participate in what it's like to be looked at, even when you don't feel like it. Yeah.
Well, Can I go back to being anonymous?
No, it's too late. You've been exposed. You are now going to be famous. And if you have the audacity to walk back into Lowe's, they're going to say, wait a minute, I didn't remember you when you worked here, but aren't you on Brad Stine Has Issues?
Something tells me that is not, in fact, what they would be saying.
That's probably true, but you know, those Lowe's stories probably would have been a lot funnier had we get to see you.
Fair enough.
Well, listen, what do you think as we've launched our first episode? You're now in the game with me, and we're going to be able to look at each other. Anything else you'd like to say before we move on to our first guest for 2005? 2025? I just lost 20 years.
Nope, I got nothing. Let's start this week here with a bang.
Well, listen, this is a bang. This is a woman that I heard about, and you all heard about, in the United States for a few years ago. She is a champion, world-class swimmer. She has United States records in some of her swimming. I think maybe even some world records or close to it. She is a top-of-the-line swimming athlete, and I'm talking about at the highest levels. And one day, she, in the midst of the wokedom that made America what it is today, she found herself swimming next to a man who said he's actually a woman. And here became this launch of this new idea that you identify as whatever you choose, and that becomes reality. But now it has existential consequences. People are paying a price, especially women. There's always been a male division and a woman's division on purpose, and there's a reason for that. Not because we don't like each other or thought each other had cooties. It's because men are better at sports than women. Faster, stronger, quicker. It's no big deal. It doesn't mean they're not great at sports. Women are great at sports, but not against men. It's any different than if I, as an adult, tried to go play Little League with a 6-year-old. It doesn't matter how good they are. I'm going to dominate. I'm bigger, stronger, faster, quicker, and more ruthless because I'm older. So that that's what happened to this young lady. And instead of being a shrinking violet that just allowed it to occur, because like far be it from her to stand up against something that seems to be unfair because she doesn't want to hurt somebody's feelings or make somebody feel marginalized, she stood up for herself like a woman, like a Christian woman, like an American, like a free speech advocate, like a warrior, like somebody that said, this is not going to happen on my watch without at least me saying that this is immoral, it's unfair, and somebody's got to step up and do something. And by golly, it was Riley Gaines. And she now is with a whole group of female athletes who are suing the NCAA. And hopefully we'll put an end to this crazy, just like I hope one day soon there'll be an end to gender transitions where these doctors will be losing their medical license and then sued for medical malpractice and crimes against humanity because they're destroying these children forever. So this is what can happen only when people stand up and be strong. So just as today, you got to see my son for the first time, and we are moving into a much more robust and unique and fresh Brad Stine Has Issues. I wanted to launch this great new year with a very well-known, strong warrior that you are going to love to listen to. You probably have heard her already on many podcasts, but we tried to find a few angles perhaps the others missed. Maybe not. But either way, she's somebody you need to support, to watch, and to get behind if we're going to watch America find sanity once more. And it happens when warriors are given a platform. Today, that platform happens to be Brad Stine Has Issues. And I had the pleasure and the honor of talking to and interviewing a sister in the Lord, a fellow patriot, and a woman of virtue and valor. Enjoy this interview, number 1 for 2025, with God's comic Brad Stine and Riley Gaines.
I am so excited to talk with you, Brad. I have never in my life been called a babe of buoyancy.
Yes.
I kind of like that. Those are my new pronouns, is babe of buoyancy. And if you don't refer to me as such, you are now a bigot.
No, indeed, that's my girl. That now you're talking Stein language. Well, listen, I am so happy to have you as well. Of course, we first connected to each other through a Carol Swain event that I had done, and there were some girlfriends, I guess, of yours that said, "Boy, you ought to talk to Riley." And I said, "I'd love to talk to Riley, but she seems busy." I think she's got a lot on her plate, but you have graciously lowered yourself to come onto my podcast. But, we got to meet a while ago in Texas at an event. I got to meet your husband, who's gigantic. He's huge. Of course,
He's tall.
He is. He's
tall.
gigantic.
He was a collegiate swimmer as well. And
Well,
so it's funny.
And you know what?
Given the fact that which we'll get into all this, I know, but he swam against Will Thomas when Will Thomas was still Will Thomas. Of course, then I had to swim against what he called himself as Lia Thomas. So it's just a roundabout, weird Twilight Zone world that we're living in. But my husband is tall, being a swimmer. That's typically the build, long and lanky.
Well, that's what I wanted to actually start this whole interview out with, was I really wanted to talk about the thing that most of us wouldn't know about, and that is just the subculture of the swimming world and people who are involved in that, because it's a very grueling sport. It's very difficult, obviously, to do it at the highest levels, but it's not like a typical mainstream, big time, multi-million dollar, at least for the athletes, organization. Maybe the commissioners make all that money. I don't know. But it's a popular sport. But normally when we think about it, at least for me, I never think about swimming until the Olympics. And then you kind of watch, and we always dominate as an Americans. And so those of us who can barely swim feel like, yes, we're killing it in there. But I got to tell you something. I'm old enough, believe it or not, and I know I look like a young pup, but I'm old enough. I literally watched Mark Spitz in the Olympics. Watched him win 7 gold medals, and feeling so proud as an American because nobody had ever won that many individual gold medals. And then here comes this Michael Phelps guy who I guess is maybe the best male swimmer of all time, at least if it goes by medals. And yet you also I know you qualified for the Olympic trials or something to that effect. So, you are at the elite level of swimmer. Were a high school champion, a state champion. And then of course you went to a Division I school and swam. So you have reached about as high as you can. I don't know if there's a professional swimming league or whatever, but if not, I guess the world you were in kind of was at that level of expertise. So talk to me a little bit about swimming in general. What kind of a DNA, what kind of a makeup does it take for somebody who says, this is the world I want to get involved with? Because it is kind of a subculture of sports. It's something you have to decide you want to be part of, because it's not going to get maybe the big accolades that, like, I don't know, baseball or football or whatever. So
Right.
talk to me about the mindset of a swimmer. What kind of a person gets involved in that world?
I think you have to be partially clinically insane, to
Okay.
be honest with you. My whole career, it was really like a love-hate relationship. And I think it's so interesting that you described it as a subculture, because I could not have described it better. I don't think I ever would have thought of that, but it's so true. And the type of person who typically, at least at the highest level, is competing and especially succeeding. Let's think of some commonalities of the best of the best. This might sound a little harsh, but I truly believe you have to be a little bit autistic. That's what the best of the best they really are. You dedicate so much of your time, so much of your effort. You're in the water, 6-7 hours every single day. You're staring at the same black line at the bottom of the pool. You're holding your breath for basically hours at a time. You're not talking to people in this time. So it's a very isolated, grueling, lonely sport, to be honest with you. And so to be willing to do it at that level, you have to have that sort of one-track mind, be hyper-driven, hyper-focused, which typically equates for a very specific type of person. So I think describing it as a subculture is perfect. In terms of body type, tall, like I said, which I'm not overly tall for a swimmer. I'm about 5'6", but most of the best are, even women are standing at 6 foot. Very broad shoulders. I still have that. I was desperately hoping when I finished swimming, those would go away. No, they do not. I swam the 200 butterfly. So my shoulders are still very, broad and big. Big hands, big feet, the standard stuff. So definitely a unique type of person. But to describe, like you said, the workouts, I don't think this is something a lot of people understand about our sport. I'll take you through a typical day of college, for example, which again, I started swimming when I was 4. Graduated when I was 22. So I dedicated 18 years of my life to this sport, which the collegiate level, you're practicing from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. So 3 hours in the morning, you go to class, what have you, eat lunch, come back, you practice again from 1:30 to 4:30. So another 3 hours. You would go and eat dinner at, 4:45 because we were starving. Like old people time is when we ate dinner. You did your homework, you iced your shoulders, you went to bed. You woke up, you did it all again the next day. So we're swimming about 15,000 yards every single day, which is equivalent to, about 10 miles every single day. So you don't have much of a social life. You don't get to go out. You don't get to go to the bars in college. Pretty much everyone who's a swimmer dates another swimmer, which I swore to myself, Brad, I wasn't going to do. I'm not dating a swimmer. I'm not going to be what we called on my team as swimcest. I'm like, I'm not partaking in this swimcest. I'm dating outside of the team. But you don't have time. You don't have time to date anyone else. And here I am married to a swimmer. He also swam at Kentucky, which I'm so fortunate, of course, for that now, but I swore I wasn't going to do it. So it's a very grueling is a good word, lonesome, but in the weirdest way, you love it. I loved my team. I loved my coaches. I loved winning. That was, I hate losing, but I love winning. So it kind of made it all worth it.
Well, and I'm curious about just the mental aspect of it, because it must be so. Okay, you have to be self-motivated, clearly, because here's what's interesting. Like, I played baseball through school, so that was my only competitive sport. I think in retrospect, if I had been interested in another sport, maybe I would have got into wrestling. I'm short and strong and stocky. I probably would have been pretty good at that. And now in recent years, as I've watched MMA and stuff, it's pretty cool. It's like, okay, that might have been fun to do. But what I'm curious about is you're in a sport where you race people, right? There are people to your right and to your left, but in a way, I guess, and I don't know, you clarify this, but what you really are training to is the clock. I have to beat a speed, am I right? Like, I have to be an eighth of a second faster. So somehow there's this abstract beast that you're trying to destroy, and it's by time. I landed a little quicker. So in a way, you're not like tennis or another one-on-one sport
Right.
where at least you see your opponent and you're fighting them, and I shot the shot past them and I can go, woohoo, I got him. You guys are, you start, you land, you touch, you come back, you touch, you stand up, and did I do it? And I don't even know if you're looking at the lane next to you and see, did I beat him, or if you're just, how'd I do with the clock? So
Yeah.
that just feels like to me such a crap. No wonder you said autistic. You have to be so
Yeah.
focused on this weird thing about beating time to
Right.
be successful. How do you make your, it just seems like if I was fighting a person, I can see what I'm trying to defeat. I can see it. I beat it. I got him in a leg lock. He tapped out. I got the point. He didn't. That I understand. That can motivate me. You never have anything pushing you but yourself trying to be faster. I feel like that would take a mental commitment that is kind of unique
That's
in
right.
sports, other than maybe running or something. But wow, how do you push yourself to be faster when you don't even know how fast you're going till you get there?
Exactly. That's a good point. These are good questions, and honestly, not something I typically like. When you're in the moment, when you're training and competing, you don't think of it like that. But now that I am a little bit removed, it's very true. Our sport is very objective. The clock will not lie to you. If you're having a bad day, it shows. If you're having a good day, it shows. My younger sister, she's a gymnast. She, trains similarly. Like it's insane how much she trains and works, and she's at the gym all day long. But it's a very subjective sport. You have judges and you get awarded points, and there's I think lots of room for questioning and uncertainty, but that's not our sport. You typically, being competing at the level that I did, you're pretty honed in on your body. So when you're swimming, no, you might not necessarily know exactly what time you're going, but I got to the point where I can touch the wall and if it's a good race or bad race based on how you feel, based on your stroke, your technique, your efficiency. I got to the point where I could get it down to the 10th pretty much. I could say, I know I just went a 48.7 and I could look at the clock and that's what I went. So it's a very, very like meticulous. And that's another thing is, we train and there's other factors that go into it. We spent so much time in the weight room, your sleep schedule, your diet, there's so much that goes into it. And all of that to shave merely hundredths of a second off your time. When you think of it like that, it's like, geez, was that worth it? We did all that to shave a 10th off. But in our sport, a 10th makes all the difference.
Cool.
At the national,
Yeah.
the NCAA championship, top 16 swimmers will be separated by only a few tenths of a second. So it's, very tight. A fingernail makes all the difference.
Are you aware of the people next to you when you're swimming, like where they are in relation to you in the water, or are you just somehow you don't hear anything? Do you hear the crowd screaming for you, or is it just like you're in this sort of your own world that there's no sensory awareness outside of, I know I'm in a good groove right now. I'm on my timing. It's exactly where I belong, or I need to speed it up. Or can you feel like I got to beat this guy next to me? Does that even come into play?
Yeah, no. So the goggles, at least the goggles, actually pretty much every pair of goggles, again, that higher end, they have like peripheral vision. So you can see the person in the lanes next to you, typically. Depends on if people intentionally look at that or not. I was someone who always wanted to know what the people next to me were doing because I'm a very competitive person. You have some people who maybe aren't as competitive, who very much focus on themselves, but in the same regard, our sport is you're competing individually, but you're still a part of a team. And so I was very motivated by my team's success, even more so than personal success. And so while maybe I was going a best time, placement mattered for point purposes. And I wanted to bring as many points to my team as possible. So I always tried to look around. When you breathe to the side, you can kind of see, you can get a pretty good gauge. It's harder on shorter events, but if you're swimming like a 500 or so, or a mile, you have, of course, it's not as up speed, so you can really look around, see where people are. The separation tends to be bigger in longer events. So I was someone who looked around, which isn't always a good thing, can slow you down for sure. But I wanted to know. It motivated me to go faster because, again, like I said, I hate losing more than I love winning. So I used it as motivation for sure. And you can see people like your teammates or so standing on the pool deck and they're cheering you on. And typically you can get a good feel if you're doing well based on the brief second. It's a very brief breath, but you can see how people are reacting. So I think those are kind of the sensory cues that I would use to gauge how I was doing.
I mean, again, I'm not obviously an expert on swimming by any stretch, but when I've watched it over the years and the Olympics especially, there's a lot of different strokes, I guess you call them, breaststroke, butterfly, backstroke, I guess free form. I don't know what you call this in normal swimming, but some odd ones. The breaststroke, is that the one where you kind of pop out?
You pick up your head and you go back down.
It's an odd, nobody would swim like that, I don't think, in normal life, but anyways, which one of those is considered the most challenging, the most difficult?
Butterfly. That's the one where both arms come out of the water at the same time and you've got kind of like a dolphin kick going. So your feet don't separate. And naturally, that's what I swam. So the 200 fly is what most people, I think, would regard as the hardest event, is what I was best at. So
hard in what way?
Hard in terms of, in freestyle, there's of course separation in, let's say, your splits. So your first 50 will of course be faster than your last 50, but that margin is so much wider in a stroke like butterfly. You can go out like a, let's say 26, and oftentimes your last 50, you can be like a 32. So that's a 6 or so second difference between the first and last 50, which in freestyle, that doesn't typically happen. So it's very easy to die off in butterfly and lose rhythm, start to go pretty vertical rather than, staying on top of the water. When you have that undulation and you start going up and down rather than, moseying your way along the surface of the water, that's when it starts to really hurt. It hurts for the person swimming and it hurts for the people watching. You can tell when someone is in pain and dying. It's very obvious. There's no hiding it in butterfly. And so my senior year, it's funny because it's what I was good at in high school. When I was 12 years old, I was ranked number 1 in the country as a 12-year-old in the 100 butterfly. When I was being recruited for college, that's what I was being recruited as, a butterfly and a freestyler. But I went to college and my college didn't need a butterflyer. They already had some who were decent enough, but they needed
were better than you,
who they could fill the role they needed to fill. And they were like, we don't have a freestyler. We need you to develop as a freestyler because that's where we need you. And so I did. Again, not overly tall. I was not necessarily a sprinter going into college, but they didn't have one on my team. And they thought, if you can develop, this is where you can do what's best for your team. And again, I was team captain. I was very much, whatever my team needs me to do, I'll do it. And so it took me a long time to develop the necessary strength. And because sprints are very much, it's not as much endurance, it's very much strength. So it was a lot of time in the weight room. It was a lot of time developing at skills I wasn't really good at first.
And your cardio.
Right.
It must be ridiculous.
Exactly. No, it is. But I finally got there. And then my senior year, we didn't have any butterflyers because they had graduated. And so they threw me in, having not trained it really in 4 years. I didn't train butterfly. And I ended up breaking the SEC record and becoming one of the fastest Americans of all time. Having just swam it, they just threw me in.
How does that feel like?
Sporadically.
What does it feel like to be one of the best of all time? How few people would ever get to say, for 1 second, I was the fastest human being ever at this one thing. I mean, does it feel proud? Do you feel like, oh crap, now they're coming after me now? It's not good enough. I want to be even faster. Are you ever satisfied?
It's a blur, honestly, because my life changed pretty drastically after college. I don't think and even just my personality, I'm just not someone to reflect much on the good things or the bad things. I very much am someone who lives in the present. And I think playing sports has taught me that, which has been fantastic, again, in translating, in my life outside of athletics. But I'm very much someone who, I made it kind of like our team motto when I was team captain, be where your feet are. If you have a bad practice, leave it in the past. If you have a good practice, leave it in the past. That doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what you're doing in this moment to create a better future. And so honestly, I just kind of like, to me I don't think I think about it much. I don't think I put value in it much, which I will say now, being more removed and looking back, it is a pretty cool accomplishment to know, yes, I did that. And it's wild to think, but it is pretty cool. And so I'm proud of it for sure. And I
Well,
know my parents are very proud, and I know my siblings who all play sports, they all look up to me a lot. And so that's pretty cool.
and when you are a quarter of a second shy of what you need to be to, let's say, world record or at least to be the champion, when you're that close, can you literally train yourself into overcoming that final space that puts you into the elite category? You're working with so many people that are so equally good that you just happen to have a good day that day, and that's the one that beats you? Or can you say, if I can get just 1/8 of a second more, I'm the fastest in the whole wide world, but here's how I have to overcome that. Here's what I need to do to gain that. I mean, is it something that can literally be formulated, or is it genetics? You either have it or you don't.
I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely think genetics plays a role, and I'm very fortunate to come from a family of athletes. My dad, he played in the NFL. My mom, she played Division I softball. All my uncles, they've like won Super Bowls and all the things. So I'm very fortunate to have that sort of athletic background where my parents, we always were playing sports. Now that's probably some form of child abuse to make your kids play sports, but my parents made me play sports. They didn't necessarily, there was never a specific sport I had to play, but I always had to be playing a sport. And it's funny because my dad, being a big burly football player, when I started swimming, he said, "No, Riley, like I said, you have to play a sport. This is not a sport. This is like a recreational hobby that you do in the summer." And, when you're 10, 12 years old, and I had kind of stuck to swimming at this point. Before that, I did a bunch of different sports, And I was like, "Dad, like swimming is a sport." He was like, his justification, "You'll like this." He said, "No, Riley, any sport where a man is wearing panties is not a sport."
Oh, little foreshadowing.
Isn't it? Isn't
Holy
it?
smoke.
And
That
so
is great. But that does sound very masculine. And I obviously I get it, because there are sports that seem to be more obvious and brutal and aggressive. And for a man who's filled with testosterone, that's kind of what makes sense to us. But
yeah.
holy smoke, to be, again, using my ignorance, but I know, take a Michael Phelps, who apparently has won more than anybody. That's an elite guy. I mean, why did this one guy be able to do that unless all the pieces of that puzzle, the genetics, the hard work, the determination, he had to put every piece of that puzzle together. And
Absolutely.
by the way, you can't just will that. Everybody that you ever swam with wanted to be the best in the whole wide world, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it, but they tried. So whatever puts people into that special category, I just wonder if that is where it becomes your willpower. Because if you're at that 2 or 3 that are pretty much in the same boat, something has to be the determining factor that made that guy better than all these other people, especially when you're talking about less than a second difference to make the elite. So I just was curious if your dad probably over time, when he saw the work you put in, saw how difficult it is, maybe he realized, okay, it's not my thing, but my God, my daughter's killing it and proud of her. And yeah, that would be rough.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely came around, especially when I got to college, and because he played in the SEC, so he understands the competitive environment. And I started winning, SEC titles. There was no one who was more proud of me than him, but it definitely came around. But when you're young and you go to these swim meets as a football dad, and you see these little boys or high school boys in some cases in these little Speedos, my dad is like, "What is this sport? What is this?" But he definitely.
I don't know if a Speedo has ever been attractive in any sport, any lifeguard. I mean, not my thing. Don't know about you. You're a girl. Maybe you have a different perspective, but a Speedo just is, there's nothing more hideous than a naked man. Nothing. So
That's
I
our
don't.
next episode, Brad, is you and I are we're going to suit up
Oh,
in a Speedo and we're going to race.
oh my Lord. Okay. Okay. I'll do
I
it.
think I could take you. And that
I,
might disprove my whole argument that I've been making the past 2 years.
you know what? That's a perfect segue into the next phase of this conversation I wanted to have. And as you said, and I'm grateful that you were aware of that, I've always tried on my podcast to try to do the impossible. And that is, especially somebody like you, Riley, who've been in so many interviews now. And it's about a very specific issue, which of course we're going to land on because it's kind of what puts you where you are, whether you liked it or not. But nevertheless, you grabbed it and said, all right, if this is where I'm going all in. But I really wanted to find out this whole idea of athletics in general and women and their mindset and their dignity to say, I'm great at my world of sport and it needs to be dignified and it needs to be admired. But I want to move into the idea of male-female sports because we shouldn't have to say obviously that men are faster and stronger. It's not misogyny. It's how
No.
we're made. Have especially upper body strength. That's why I can do 10 or 12 pull-ups and most girls can't do one or two. Has nothing to do with whether they're strong. Now, of course, there's exceptions. There's girls that train and are killer at it. And any woman that plays a sport professionally would destroy me. And there's no question. But if you're playing elite to elite, I mean, was it Vanessa Williams that said it best, echoing what McEnroe said? He said, look, she's the greatest female tennis player there's ever been. Oh, on the men's, oh yeah, she'd be about 800. And
Hold on, Brad.
she said,
You're making way too much sense.
Well, but if you are the athlete, she is the athlete. You actually know the difference. It's as though, to me, to allow a man who claims to be a woman to compete with a woman, to me, it's violating a PED. You genetically have a performance enhancing drug biologically because you're a man. You've got thicker bones, you got fast twitch muscles, you've got more weight, more power, more testosterone naturally. It's a performance enhancing drug, just the way you are designed by God. But when it comes to sports, do you think there are any sports where female male doesn't really matter? Now, when it comes to the strength, you can't overcome that. So I'm saying, let's say golf. If a woman is given a little bit of advantage where she tees off because she's not going to have the power or whatever, I mean, is there really, can't they in that way kind of be similar, or bowling or darts or archery? Aren't there some sports that really shouldn't make a difference when it comes to strength and speed?
So I've been someone who has been pretty hypercritical of this because, and I've received a lot of flack and backlash for it, because even in sports, like, I don't know if I would necessarily call this a sport, but in activities and hobbies, or maybe what some people call the sport of chess, most people would think, okay, is there really a difference between men and women? But I've been someone to call out these men who are competing and winning championships, which I didn't know anything about chess. I don't know how to play chess. I didn't know that there was a world championships of chess, but there was. And I believe last year, 2 years ago, there was a man who won it all on the women's side. And I was someone who was pretty quick to say, hey, why is a man competing in women's chess? And a lot of people said, oh, well, you're just calling women stupid. You know, it's a mind game. No, where I have been hypercritical and what I'm calling for is transparency. So my thing is, why have a women's category if you're going to allow men into it? So I definitely do believe maybe there could be conversations to eliminating categories, but I'm someone who takes the stance of, if you have a women's category, it should only be for women. But we've seen men win world championships in darts. Again, I don't know what sort of advantages are possessed there. Things like billiards. I think the case could be made, reach and strength, maybe in billiards. Fencing. We just saw a few weeks ago the world champion, and it was like the veterans age. So, I think he's like 60 to, forget what the age category is, maybe 50 to 60 or 60 to 70. It was a man who won. I think arm size or arm length, wingspan makes a difference. But I believe there's definitely a case to be made of either having more of a co-ed opportunity and labeling it correctly as co-ed, or talks of removing categories if unnecessary and where men and women could compete in some cases fairly. But I'm just someone who believes if you advertise it for women, it should be only for women. Otherwise, it's not a woman's category.
No, of course. And I agree with you. And I'm not even advocating that there is a co-ed league. The honest truth, I might as well get my hate mail going.
Go ahead. Keeps life fun. Keeps it interesting.
It does. Well, here's the thing. So I was thinking about this idea of the man that started playing in the, maybe some in basketball, soccer, maybe some, yeah, I guess every sport at this point, some men are jumping in deciding they're women, or maybe it was tennis. And then I said, actually, these men have done a service because they've finally figured out a way to make women's tennis watchable.
It's so interesting you say that because you look at entities like the WNBA, which has this star phenom, Caitlin Clark, who virtually saved viewership of the WNBA. And the way that the WNBA is now self-imploding, or previously.
I love it. I love it, by the
It's
way.
the most ironic thing ever. I'm like, this is this person you should be catapulting.
Yes.
You are now flying private. I mean, all the different shoe deals and things people are getting now, these women. You should be thanking Caitlyn, but instead, these women are ousting her as this, I mean, all kinds of just crazy, crazy stuff. We've seen like Jamel Hill and all of these ESPN reporters and whoever else calling Caitlin Clark, she has white privilege and tall privilege and pretty privilege and straight privilege and all these silly things that I don't even know what they're saying. So to your point, I don't think you're wrong. And again, it's not really opinionated either. It's kind of matter of fact.
Well, it goes back to why progressivism and wokeism is such a deleterious philosophy culturally. It's self-refuting. It's so stupid that you can't imagine. You'd have to be an intellectually tenured professor at Berkeley to believe in it because it is beyond stupidity. It's just pragmatic. The reason that they paid the male soccer stars at the big World Series of Soccer, whatever it's called, I don't watch soccer because it's not a sport that Americans invented, so it doesn't count. But
Exactly.
but they make whatever billion, and the women make X amount. And they go, well, hey, why aren't we getting paid fairly? We're also here, and it's like the reason is very simple. Because you don't bring in the money that they do. It's not complicated. If you
Right.
brought in $1 billion, you'd get paid for it. You don't. And here's the other thing, and this is the truth. And I'm speaking to an elite female athlete like yourself who would destroy, I don't know, 95% of any man that wanted to swim with you in a pool, you'd beat him because you are that good. But nevertheless, when you're comparing elite to elite, the best athletes is a male and a female. Well, we already know that. The winners of the soccer, the women's USA soccer team, I think it was them, played a high school team of boys and lost. High school.
In a blowout. Same
In a
thing with
blowout.
Venus and Serena Williams. Like you said, these are phenoms. There's no one even close. They're untouchable to other women, at least for a point in time they were. Yet they played the 203rd ranked male player and they lost in a blowout.
Yeah.
He was drinking in between sets. He was smoking in between sets. He played 18 holes of golf before. And even then, he played like a 600th ranked player and destroyed them.
Yeah.
And so,
But
just the point of,
Riley,
if you look at these sports, like, again, I mean, virtually any sport, baseball compared to softball, the ball size is different, the field size is different, the pitch is different itself. In gymnastics, men have totally different events. They're doing pommel horse, they're doing the rings. Women don't do that. Golf, like you said, tee off. In basketball, the size of the ball is different. The 3-point line is different. I mean, it's just acknowledging. In volleyball, the men's net is 7.5 inches higher than women. It's acknowledging these biological advantages that exist.
Yeah.
Or that we previously acknowledged exist. But now,
but does it again, wokeism is designed to find a victim. That's what it's done because it's a power trip. First off, it's a secular religion. We see that when they, for example, this last election that we'll probably talk about here in a minute with Trump destroying Kamala and being reelected. But people saying, hey, you should cut off your family members from Thanksgiving if they voted against, or you should divorce your husband. You want to talk about a cult. You want to talk
the
about
shaving of the heads.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're going to make ourselves even less attractive. I said, sweetheart, you could have just given me your point of view and I would have been nice, mightily turned
Now
on.
they're just bald and Donald Trump is still the president.
Exactly. Well, and they've revealed themselves. These are like the people that are still wearing masks at the airport. It's like you have a mental disorder, really. And I mean that. And as a Christ follower, I do think there is this sort of demonic sort of hazing of the human intellect over the last few years. People that you would otherwise would have thought would be logical thinking humans can't think. And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre that there are real adult humans, male or female, that says if you are a woman and you say you're a man, or a man that says you're a woman, you really are but to believe that. Now, I don't know if they really do. I
I
think
was
maybe
just
they
about to
believe in
ask
their,
you if you think they believe it, because I don't think they do. Let's again take, for example, the NCAA, who has been obviously large proponents of this movement in sports. The NCAA is a sports organization. They see very clearly the differences between men's sports and women's sports. I don't think they believe this. Same thing with ESPN, who is owned by Disney. So, I mean, that tells
enough
you,
said. Yeah.
yeah, enough said. But ESPN covers men's basketball, women's basketball. They see the differences. I don't think they actually believe it. I just think it's kind of like a classic case of either virtue signaling or some other measure of basically saying that women don't matter. I mean, I don't think they believe it, not even for a second. And now
No,
we're
but they
starting to
believe in
see,
their philosophy. They believe in their point of view, and that is sacrosanct. I'm telling you, it's a
yeah,
religion.
no, it's right.
It's a religious belief that
They're their own
cannot be
deity.
breached, and to speak against it is to blaspheme. This is truly what has happened because it makes no sense any other way. Nobody is denying women's athletic accomplishments or how great some women athletes like yourself are. Nobody's denying that. We're just simply saying that it would be no different than somebody saying that 8-year-old little league team should compete against a senior high baseball team because they're equal. What do you, obviously they're not. And so
Right.
so there's something else at stake here. There's something else presuppositionally as a foundation that is trying to be protected. Something else is going on because it doesn't make sense logically. And we've even been told now that logic is racist because when you can't convince people your point of view is lunacy using logic, just make logic lunacy. And so here we
Absolutely.
sit with this new world that we've lived in that you found yourself thrust into by no choice of your own. I'm sure when you were 6 years old, jumping in that pool and thinking, I think I found my purpose. And you became great at it. And your dad was so proud of you. By the way, this is a little off center, but I was curious about this. As a woman whose mother is proud of her accomplishment and whose father is proud of your accomplishment, and both were athletes. So it's not like you have a housewife that kind of just showed up
Right.
to the games and was the snack girl, or whatever, brought, but obviously appreciated your accomplishment, whatever. Do you feel more proud to make your father proud in your athletic abilities or your mother, or is it equal?
Yeah, it's a good that's a good point. Honestly, I feel like my siblings and my mom has always been like just, I mean, kind of like you described. She's been the one who's always at every single game. She's cheering us on. She very much fills that motherly role that most moms with kids do. But my dad, I think that my siblings and we really, when we were younger, we thought he hung the moon. He comes from, like I said, he has four brothers. They all played professionally. My uncles, my great uncles. So I think just kind of having that legacy there, all that they've accomplished, I think we almost innately wanted I think our father's approval, or maybe that's not a good way to put it, but we wanted him to be proud of us for sure. Both of my parents. Again, I'm
Well, no,
very,
both of them, but why do you think that? I mean, this is more of an abstract question, but it occurred to me while we were talking. Why do you think? And again, I'm talking to a woman, so I don't know that I knew the answer to that. I know as a boy and how badly you need your father's approval and his love and his attaboy son, because there's difference. If you are working and you fall down and skin your knee, you're playing a sport and you get hurt, there's two different perspectives. There's the mom hug where she lifts you up and are you okay and tries to brush it off and hold you tight and has those wings around you to protect you from evil, and that we're not going to let that happen again, and are you okay, and I love you, and mommy will make it better. That's a good hug. We need it sometimes. Dad's hug. I love you. You okay? I am. I'm right here. I got your back. I know. Okay. Get back in.
that's so funny you say that, because it just reminded me of when my parents dropped me off at college, which I went to University of Kentucky, which is not even 3 hours away from home. So it's not like it was overly far. And my mom bawling, crying, right? Even having sent my older sister off to college before, bawling, crying. And I'll never forget, I had to do like a bunch of the freshman orientation stuff. And so my dad went to the grocery store for me to get some stuff for my dorms, kind of stock the fridge before my parents left. He came back, Brad, with a bag of like Oscar Mayer wieners, like raw hot dogs, and a big bottle of ketchup and mustard. And that was it. That was all he got me. And he looked at me and he gave me a hug and he said, brush your teeth every night, say your prayers every night, and just know I'd run here barefoot for you. And I never forgot it. So I think what you're describing in terms of the mother typically being more empathetic and emotionally driven and has characteristics like compassion, which are all wonderful things and what makes women wonderful wives and mothers and sisters and friends. But when I think of my father, I don't necessarily think of those traits. And so it's a good point because it's easy to see the physical differences between men and women, which is oftentimes what this conversation, especially in terms of how it's been drawn up politically, and we're talking about, men are taller in this, but there's a point to be made that intrinsically men and women are different. Take away the physical aspects of it. Men tend to be more dominant. They tend to be more aggressive and more assertive and more altruistic. And that describes the parents that I had. And again, I think it plays a part in this movement. And so where you see men inserting themselves in women's sports, in women's prisons, in women's bathrooms and sororities, notice it's only really happening one way because these men are the same dominant men that they've always been. These women who identify as men, they're not demanding the language by which other men call them. No, because they know that they're still the same woman that they are inside. No matter how much hormones, no matter how much surgery, those are things that just don't change. So I think that's a good point to make and definitely one that is pretty deep in thought. But notice the outrage or the lack of outrage, shall I say. We've seen words like woman and female and mother be deemed as offensive because they're not gender inclusive enough. Could you imagine? And they're replacing it with like cervix haver or uterus owner or menstruator or bleeder or chest feeder or birthing person or birth giver or egg producer, which is my favorite because that's what Mr. Admiral Rachel Levine calls women is egg producers. But could you imagine if a man was called a sperm producer?
Right.
There would be outrage and that would be over in 3 seconds. That's why I think we're seeing this. And again, that speaks to the characteristic differences. Women tend to just sit back and take it, but men would not allow it. Look at Bud Light, for example. They tried it and men said, we're not giving you our money anymore. You basically just mocked us. We're your target audience. I'm not giving you my money. And you know what happened? Bud Light's, after losing $27 billion essentially overnight, their next commercial was a big burly man with the motorcycle on a camo can.
Yeah, and it was so gratuitous and it was so predictable and it was so pathetic. The only shot I believe that we have to begin to right this ship, and who knows, with this new administration coming in, that might make leaps and bounds towards speeding it up. These companies, these universities, they have to be bankrupt into oblivion. I'm saying no second chances. No, we're better now. No, we've been educated. We've rethought. We're going to do it like this. No, the fact you did it in the first place tells me who you are. The fact that you're now backstepping and trying to reproduce what you think the people want. We've learned our lesson. It's like, no, you didn't. You're kowtowing to what you're paying the price for, what the seed you've sown, and you should be destroyed.
Absolutely.
It should cost you everything so that the next group of people say, we ain't doing DEI. We're not doing that. We're not doing Marxist nonsense, anti-American cancer to destroy this nation. We're not going to raise the next generation of Americans to hate their nation. All the while they're making money in a free country and nobody's taken a gun to their head and said, you must recant your point of view. That's not going to happen until we say no. And I feel sorry for you in some ways because, well, and I think this goes to the nature. I'm a Christ follower. I'm telling you, God made us male, female, and he made us unique. We're similar, but we're not the same. And I feel sorry for you because to me, I see a woman, a girl, and that's not demeaning. I'm just bringing it down to it. And she should be protected. Men are supposed to protect you. I can't imagine the restraint your father had to do to not wait for Lia to walk out the changing room and say, I'm going to make this very clear. You walk back in there with my daughter, and it'll be the last thing you remember. I mean, that's how men protect their daughters. He must have been crazy to feel like his daughter was being violated and feel like he couldn't do anything to help her.
My dad, I remember, because we knew like about 3 weeks before the national championships that we would be competing against him. So we knew he was going to be in the pool with us, which is unsettling as is. But we didn't know he was going to be sharing the locker room until we were in that locker room. And for a little perspective, to kind of set the scene, because if I had to see it, you and your listeners at least have to hear about it. We were not forewarned. No prior acknowledgement. There was no way that we could have made other arrangements for ourselves if this was something we were uncomfortable with. I mean, the first time that we found out we would be undressing next to this 6'4", 22-year-old, fully naked, fully intact man was when we were inches away from said man also fully undressed. And I remember I called my dad, and a swimming locker room is not a place of modesty. Like these suits that you're putting on, your racing suit, it takes oftentimes, most times, if you can get it on in less than 20 minutes, that's an achievement. So it takes 20 minutes. I mean, they're paper thin, they're skin tight, 20 minutes to poke and prod yourself into these suits. And that's 20 minutes of which you're fully exposed. And so I called my dad when I got out of this locker room. And I was like, Dad, the meet was at Georgia Tech. My parents were there watching. I said, he's in our locker room. He said, Riley, I'm going to say I'm your school's bus driver. Come down to this door and let me, because they don't let spectators or parents onto the pool deck, of course. He said, come say I'm the bus driver and let me down there and I'll handle this myself. To which he would have, like my dad would have, and he would be in jail in an orange jumpsuit. And so I told him, it was a large part, honestly, in why I spoke out, because I told my dad, I'm like, look, don't need you to go to jail. We already have one man in the locker room. We don't need to. I can handle this myself. But to see the cowardice of so many parents, even still, like I can't even tell you the amount of parents who message me on social media and say, thank you for doing what you do. I've got a daughter. She's in sports, high school sports, and there's a boy who's competing with them and changing in the locker room with them. Can you do something about it? Because, I work a corporate job, but you can. So can you? And it breaks my heart, honestly, when I get these messages, because of course, like I want to do anything I can. I've made it my mission to help girls, kind of give a voice to the voiceless. But as a parent, how can you look at yourself in the mirror and know that your job takes precedent over the well-being of your child? Like it just is like this sick, I don't even know the best way to describe it, but it's like you said.
Cowardice.
Like it's just, I just can't. I felt guilty, honestly. Like I felt guilty when I even competed against him, because I felt like I had participated in the farce. And in doing that, I was just as bad as those people who created these rules. Yeah. And so I don't know how these parents aren't overwhelmed with feelings of responsibility and guilt. Honestly, I really don't.
Well, it seems to me that one of the things that the progressive does, remember, they jettison God. They don't believe in absolute truth, immutable truth. They don't believe in morality. But what they do is do what most Marxists do, who have no intrinsic moral absolutes that drives them, is they co-opt Christianity. They take our virtues, the best of what Christianity did to create the West, which is justice for people who are downtrodden, to take care of the widows and the orphans. Nobody ever said that your neighbors, whoever is in need, no other belief system ever came up with that you are to help the children and women's rights. This had never existed in human history. Jesus and his followers came up with this because it's the truth. It's what changed the world. And they co-opt these ideas and they turn them into a secular version of virtue to give themselves. They always say this, we got a virtue signal. Why would you have to signal virtue? If you have it, it's obvious. You have to signal it because you don't have it. It's a mask. It's a performance art. It's a costume I have to put on to give the illusion that I actually have these values, because frankly, I don't even know what they are.
Right.
So I think, as we're getting closer to the end of this interview, and I don't want to overstay our time, I hope we have a little bit more time. I do want to look about moving forward. So I didn't spend the majority of this time on the Lia Thomas U Racing because it's been in virtually every one of your interviews. It's all out there. It should be listened to and said. But I wanted to find other avenues of interest that we could talk about because I wanted to get a full rounded Riley Gaines and see who she really is and what her life is and what drives her, so we can understand what, first off, you're going to do moving forward and how we can assist you. But let's look at that because I thought to myself from the get-go, Riley, before it started happening, thank God, I thought we can fix this right now. Why doesn't every girl just say, I'm not playing? And they just say, we're not playing, and they don't show up. And if that happened enough, they'd lose so much money. The university would say, I guess we're going to have to dump these guys because nobody's going to play anymore. But you would need that unity. Everybody would have to do it as one, because if it's one girl like Riley, or it's one girl like, this girl over here, or this girl that, or whatever, it's too easy to isolate them, to shame them, to diminish them, to threaten them, I guess, maybe to lose your scholarship, which
Definitely.
I would think you could sue them for. But it looks like that's starting to happen now. In volleyball, at least, there's been a bunch of teams that have finally decided, screw it, we're not playing. And they're forfeiting. Do you think that is a viable solution? Hopefully there's more than one, but wouldn't that be about as easy as it gets? If no girl said, I'm going to play with you, it goes away because they're not going to just keep forfeiting every game of every sport. They'd look like idiots.
Absolutely. Easy in the sense of you take decisive action and it's done. Hard in the sense of, and I'll tell you, I changed my mind on this. Initially, obviously, I wasn't willing to step down. So I thought to myself at the inception of this, at least for me personally, I've worked hard. I shouldn't be the one to compromise here. It's a man in our sport. He should be the one to step down. I'm not doing it. And I believed for a while that it's not up to us, the men, or honestly, not even just men, but the people whose job it is to protect us should just protect us. And then I realized what a naive thought. If we wait for people to do the right thing unprovoked, we would be waiting for forever. And so I changed my tune entirely. And I do believe that stepping down, or really, I shouldn't say stepping down, I should say stepping up, because that's what these girls are doing in a sense of by forfeiting, you are stepping up. You're standing up for yourself. You're standing up for the next generation of women to come. So I think it needs to be framed in that light. But you're right. It's been successful. We've seen it be effective. It works, to your point, in the Mountain West Conference in volleyball. San Jose State University has a man on their women's team, which of course, this is a university in California, but he's taking a scholarship. He's taking a roster spot. He's taking a travel spot from a hardworking, deserving girl. And so 5 universities have ultimately decided to forfeit. 2 of these universities forfeiting twice. So San Jose State has 7 illegitimate wins on their record. 7 because of other teams saying, look, we are fearful for our safety. We've seen other teams do it, soccer teams in New Hampshire. I have a call, actually, as soon as we're done talking, with a girls' high school volleyball team in the state of California. They've got a man playing in the state championship on the girls' team. And so just yesterday, Stone Ridge Christian High School in California, they said, look, we're not playing. And so it's been my mission. I've labeled it actually as Project Boycott, with emphasis on boy. It's taken hold. I've dedicated a lot of my time to reaching out to, or fielding, honestly, a lot of these girls reach out to me, parents or the athletes themselves, and tell me what's going on. I've just dedicated a lot of time to providing them with resources, with support, with guidance, with the correct legal team who can help them understand if there are legal options to move forward. Because like you said, I think that's how you hit them where it hurts. We have to pursue litigation. The other side does. It's due time that our side is willing to fight back in the courts as well. I've been able to, I'll send you some pictures after this. I don't know if you can add them in this clip, but of girls, these volleyball teams, what have you, wearing shirts that say boycott. Again, boy in all capitals.
Yes,
that's what we need to see. That's what we need to see. We need to see girls who are willing to step down. And I think it would be even better. And to your point, it would be over even quicker if there were men's teams who were willing to stand in solidarity and say, hey, look, you're treating our women terrible, NCAA. We're not playing either until you fix this. It would be over 2 years ago.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, and that's really, but we saw the same thing with the COVID fiasco. I never wore the mask other
Oh,
than
wait.
when I got on a flight because otherwise I'd go bankrupt. There's no way I can work. So I wear it and I'd fake it or I'd buy a fake mask that you could breathe through that looked like never took the vaccine. I'm a pure blood. I just knew something was wrong and I wasn't going to participate. But here's the thing. I even filmed myself walking through Chicago O'Hare in 2020 with no mask while everybody had it and filmed myself because I wanted to remember this moment because I actually thought this. I really did. I thought people would look at me and they would go get emboldened. He's like, he's right. This isn't America. This is my First Amendment right. Let me take my own risks for my own body. Let me choose to go out or not go out. But I'm not going to bankrupt myself. And I'm certainly not going to give away my liberties. It's one thing if you try to steal it as a despot. I'm going to give them away. I can't. They'll never come home. They'll never be returned. Once power is given to somebody, they're not given it. You're not going to vote it back. So I filmed myself, and I thought these guys. I'm picturing them ripping. He's right.
Yeah, like a revolution.
Yeah, we're going to get Attica, right? And they didn't. And what I realized is people would say, you're so brave, or even my comedy where I'll stand up and fight against the wokeism and the progressivism and the identity politics. And that's part of my latest album is all about laugh while it's legal. And people say you're brave and you're courageous and whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, it isn't brave and courageous to seek what is true. That should be normal. That should be what is expected of a man of actual virtue. You don't have to signal it. It's who you are or woman. And you guys want everybody else to do the work. And then you want to reap the benefit. Let me go out first. I'll take all the arrows. And then the pioneers get to go through the pass. And it's like, wait a minute. I need you to care about this and fight with me, or it's not going to work. I'm just one guy. But everybody thinks that they would be the kid that says the emperor's naked, and virtually nobody is the kid. You're all fooling yourselves. You're cowards. When we really needed you, when Riley Gaines was sitting next to a dude and said, you got to swim with this guy, and he's going to probably, I mean, you tied him one time, so it just shows how good you are or how bad he is. I don't know. I don't mean that as an insult, but holy smoke. You tied the guy, but I know he won a lot too. That somebody or all the stands would have stood up and said, no, we're not watching, turned their back to the pool. No, we will say the emperor's naked. And they didn't. And
It
so
was really eye-opening for me that time, just because, again, being young and what I would describe myself as naive, I loved my university and the NCAA. I believed they had my best interests. I trusted them. I dedicated my life to them, really.
and they abandoned you.
And they abandoned me. But in privacy, they all, my coach, my athletic director, I mean, everyone said, keep going, keep pushing, keep fighting, as if they're not the ones I'm fighting. And it's an interesting connection you draw to COVID because, and I don't think I really thought of this before, but when COVID hit at the end of my sophomore year in March of 2020, we were robbed of an NCAA championships in that way. We returned junior year, and immediately autocratic mandates of social distancing and contact tracing and the mandatory vaccines and the mask mandates, which I don't know if you've ever seen a swimmer in the water wearing a mask, but they tried. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But they told us.
I didn't know they did that.
They sat me down and said, Riley, the vaccine is mandatory. And I said, no, it's not. I'm young, I'm healthy. At this point, I'd already had COVID. The antibody is the most natural and best form of immunity. And they said, no, you have to get it or else you won't be able to travel. I remember so specifically, they said, you can't go. We had University of Alabama coming up, a big SEC rivalry. They said, you can't go to University of Alabama. They tried everything. They said, Riley, you're the team captain. You're supposed to be the leader. You don't want to be hurting your team, do you? And that's what you're going to be doing, because they knew that would work on me. But I'll tell you, I held my ground, and I learned then that mandatory doesn't actually mean required. That's not what it means. It means, I guess, highly suggested, but it doesn't mean required. And I stood my ground, and we had tons of girls on our team who didn't want the vaccine, but they got it. And so I think it does speak a little bit to, I don't know if I certainly believe, number one, faith, but I think it speaks to how I was raised by my parents in the church as well. I think it speaks to the person that just I am. I don't have to do that because you're telling me to do it, even when everyone else did it. And guess what? I still got to go to University of Alabama. All of these things that they had told me were going to happen, there was no basis for any of these
Right.
things to happen.
Right.
It was
Well,
all manipulation.
I know that I remember years ago seeing a survey they did of people who were older and dying. Yeah. And they just asked them, what's your biggest regret in life? And these are people that are on the way out, right? They lived a long life and maybe they were rich, maybe they're poor, but they're about to pass on. And they said, what's your number one regret? And the number one answer was, I wish I had taken more risks.
Mm.
I wish I would have done that thing. I always wanted to go to Paris. Why didn't I do it? I always wanted to learn to play the piano. Yeah, I always wondered what would have happened if I would have tried to build that business. I don't know. Maybe it would have failed, but I tried. And, and all of these people that took it, the vaccine, whatever, they can say now, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I've learned my lesson. And I hope so. I hope when this crazy happens again, they will fight with us this time. But they have to live with the regret that you didn't stand for something that you believed in when you needed to. And the only time it matters, Riley, is when it's hard.
That's
It's
it.
not hard to not wear a mask when you don't have to do it anymore. It's hard to
That's
do it when you're the only one walking down O'Hare, Chicago, with no mask and sitting everybody, yes, whatever you tell me to do. And you're doing the strong right thing. And you feel like the only person at a nude beach wearing a bathing suit. You're the freak, but you're doing the right thing. So it was odd, but I feel grateful that I tried to stand for what was true in the hopes that this will teach us all a lesson. So going forward then in trying to see overcoming and destroying this, you talk about lawsuits. If you're walking down the street, a girl's walking down the street and a guy exposes himself, that's illegal. I don't know what they call it, but it's illegal. There's a term for it.
voyeurism, indecent exposure,
Yeah. Okay, indecent
sexual
exposure.
harassment. There's
Indecent.
a lot of terms for it.
Okay, indecent exposure. Would an option be if I walk in to get dressed as a woman and there's a dude in there and takes his stuff off, my lawyer will sue him for indecent exposure? I mean, are there more radical? Is that impractical? Or could there be sort of, we're not screwing around this time. We got all the bullets loaded and you're going to pay and it's going to cost you everything for this crap to stop. And how do we get the NCAA? How do we get them to defend your rights so girls' sports and boys' sports can just go forward normally? And that's that.
Yeah, it took me a while to be comfortable with a lawsuit. I think for a couple reasons. It's a big investment, both financially, the emotional toll, the time investment, lots of big words I didn't understand 2 years ago. So it took me a while. And I just never really saw myself as a victim necessarily. And so it took me a while. And I'll tell you when I changed my mind. Is I was at this big conference where the NCAA was announcing their NCAA Woman of the Year, which is the most prestigious honor for a collegiate female athlete. It's something that encompasses of course, your athletic achievement, but also your academic success and your community service. And it just showcases a very well-rounded person. Each university gets one nominee across all sports teams at their universities. And so University of Kentucky chose me, which I was just honored by. Like, I couldn't believe they chose me. We had the #1 WNBA draft pick. We have Abby Steiner, who's breaking world records in track and field, national championship volleyball team, national championship rifle team, but they chose me. So I was honored until a full list of NCAA Woman of the Year nominees was released, and it was not exclusive to just women. I went to this conference, of course, not in support. I went up in arms, and I found the president at the time, who was Mark Emmert of the NCAA. And, we make eye contact, which actually a little backstory. I'll be brief. I know you're trying to wrap up and I just keep talking. It's the swimmer.
No, I listen, if you have time, I'm happy to go longer. I just didn't want to keep you if you had something to do.
No, at this conference, there was like a big convention hall. And so it's like a week-long thing. And they've got, businesses who would set up a tent or a booth in these convention. And I thought, what better way to get in front of the people that I need to get in front of than to just buy a booth and to stake myself out in front of these people. And so I figured I'll do this. This is where all the presidents and the athletic directors and coaches walk by. And so I applied to buy a booth with my name, Keep in mind, I had been outspoken at this point, and the NCAA denied it. I thought, that's weird. I'm trying to give them money. Tried again with an alias, and they were like, of course, we'll take your money. So anyways, I get this booth, and I'm passing out bracelets that just say Title IX. I don't even know. And every single person who walked by, they said, thank you for doing what you're doing. You keep going. The president of the NCAA, Mark Emmert, we make eye contact. He tries to do one of those things where he puts his phone up, acting like he's on the phone, which I'm like, I know you're not on the phone. That's the oldest trick in the book. And I approach him and, I tell him, hello, my name is Riley. He says, I know who you are. Keep going. And I said, what do you mean keep going? You are the one that I'm going against. He says, yes, well, my hands are tied. I said, who's tying your hands? You're the president of the NCAA. He says, well, I don't want to lose federal funding and we don't want to be sued. And I said, you don't want to be sued? He said, no. Then I said, I'm going to sue you. And I did, and I am. I am in the process. I've garnered up 18 other athletes who have been adversely impacted by this rule across many different sports at the hands of the NCAA, and we're suing them. I guess that's what you got to do. He said outright to me that that's what it would take for him to do the right thing. And so if I have to be that out for him to say, keep sitting on his hands, I guess I can be that. Again, it's a lot. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot that goes into it, but nonetheless, it's worth it. And I think they're thrilled we're suing them. I know they are, actually. They're like, thank you, because again, we don't have to take accountability this way or responsibility.
Yeah,
so,
again, the cowardice of people is so alarming. Well, listen, I got to tell you this, Riley. I'm a lot older than you, and I've lived my life. I started out over 30 years ago as a comic. I was clean. I was a Christian, so it was clean, worked out in the comedy clubs, did all the TVs and this and that. But as my faith became much more apparent to me that in the end, life is pretty quick, and I want to leave a legacy, and I felt that God had called me to the church to inspire believers to be all in, to become disciples. We were never called to be Christians. We were called to be disciples. It was a discipline. Christian's easy. You get saved. Disciples hard. That's the rest of your life, working it out with fear and trembling. And a lot of times you get Christians in the performance arts like me who kind of have their own, talk about a subculture, full circle, their own little world and their own little accolades and so forth. And I'm not saying they're not legit, but they kind of take this easy route of appealing to those who already think that like them. And oftentimes you don't see a deep intellectual acumen from these folks, and you don't see a lot of strength and courage. And I've seen nothing but that in you. I have watched your interviews from Bill Maher to Joe Rogan to know that a Christ follower, a Christian sister who's been on the biggest platforms in the world, and you're smart, and you're funny, and you're authentic. I love your authenticity. You just don't come across as pious or odd. You come across as courageous, and you are just such a beacon of what a Christ follower should look like. You really are. And I want you to know that as a man telling you how important it is for Christ followers to act like it. To be courageous, to stand up for justice, for what is right. You're not unkind. You speak truth. Truth, as you know, is offensive enough. You don't have to be a jerk. Right. Just speak truth and you will offend. That's what it means to be a Christ follower. Jesus even promised. You want to know if you really want to mine, you'll be hated for my sake. And if you're not, you might want to reconsider if you're even in the family. Well, you have been hated for his sake in your faith, and yet you've stood strong. And I just want you to know, not that it matters, because you don't know me. I want you to know how proud I am of you. You have served him well, and all of us. And we need more Rileys out there. And I know you'll be an inspiration to other believers out there. And thank you for doing the hard things. I'm going to ask you one last question and let you go, because this is for my subscribers. It's only they get to watch it. We didn't really get into the election. I do feel like, and I'll bet you do too, something happened on November 6th that makes us feel like something's different already. I don't know what happened, but holy smoke, if God has given us a reprieve, has God opened up a window of grace and mercy, I feel like something huge is going to turn this giant sinking Titanic around and start going back to common sense and virtue and truth and reality. I don't know if you feel that. but I think you know Donald Trump, or at least you've met him and maybe have had some chances to speak to him a bit. I don't know who's real anymore, Riley. They're all corrupt, both sides. I've never been more disappointed and despicable of watching politicians. They're sick human beings, and I hope they're exposed and are brought to justice. Folks,
No doubt.
this has been Riley Gaines. Thank you, sweetheart, for all of your incredible work. We will pray for you. If there's any place people, I don't know if you are looking at donations, like if you're doing a give, send, and go for your lawsuits, or if you have somebody doing it pro bono. Is there anywhere someone could go to perhaps follow you or help you and assist you as you move forward?
Yeah, I post on X, Twitter, which is my username is Riley_Gaines_. The lawsuit, it's take on the NCAA. Again, we're pushing back, so it's day by day.
And is the lawsuit to just basically say biological men can no longer play in any? Is that what the suit is?
It's just making the case that they violated Title IX explicitly, which their reasoning is no, sex includes gender identities, really crazy stuff. But I'm feeling very optimistic that we will be victorious in this, which is no easy feat, when you're going against someone like the NCAA with the pockets that they have.
Yeah.
But bring it on,
Yeah, man. Well, folks, this has been Riley Gaines. I don't have to announce her. You've seen her all over the place. I pray for her spirit and strength and courage, and for her husband as well. I met him, a great guy, and what they've taken on. You need to support, you need to pray, you need to help, and you need to do your part. Quit waiting for the rest of us to do it. You need to follow suit. Go forth and do likewise. That's what is demanded of a Christ follower. If you're in another country and you just saw what happened in the U.S., I hope it gives you some hope. I hope if you're in Europe, which has lost its mind, I hope you see that there are a lot of people that do want freedom and liberty, and it matters to us. So fight the good fight. Come to know Jesus. He is the only way to heaven. That's how he made it very clear. He's the only one that ever came back from the dead. So you should follow him, but also stand for truth and be, as a Christ follower, the last truth tellers on earth. If they ever say you're being politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. That means you're doing something right, and it means you're standing courageously. And just keep watching us. Keep praying for us. We're doing the best we can. Like Riley said, we're flawed too, but we're trying. So keep us in your prayers. And remember, this is God's comic Brad Stine on Brad Stine Has Issues, doing what I do, which is simply this: putting the woke back to sleep. See you next Monday.